Hello viewers, I'm trying to test using Pali uh, for page scan, and then this is required part of accessibility testing, and especially for the verification across the page on the accessibility vulnerabilities. For example, if the page is not complying with section 508 as per US standards or WCAG of UK standards, it will give us the errors and details. So basically what I did is I have package.json updated. So this is the JavaScript framework running in Node. So I got Selenium in this, Cucumber, Chai, and then Pali now along with the Pali reporter. So I just added these two tools. Pali in short, actually it is called P accessibility. So the 11 letters has been cut there and then replaced with 11. Alright, so after that what I basically do, I go to the terminal and then install Pali globally. So this is to get Pali set up in your node modules. So npm install -g space Pali will get the complete Pali tool setup for the project. So also let us understand what necessity for Pali when we test the page using color contrast analyzer. Basically, if you watched a couple of sessions what I mentioned in Internet Explorer, you can actually use a color contrast analyzer from WAT tool. So it basically checks the background and foreground colors and then provide the ratios like 4:5 is to 1, which is normal, and then 3 is to 1, which is in zoomed mode. So they are fair ratios for any object. At the same time, we never know what else the accessibility defects lying underneath on the code. So this is required, and then this can be fulfilled by Pali or tools such as AXE. So and only challenge in Pali is that if you wanted to log in on a particular page and then move on to third or fourth page and then scan there, that is something you need to do along with the Pali-CI. That's not done by Pali, because this is purely on URL based page scan. So we'll go through that. So there is another benefit: you can export the report, because if the page is huge and then you wanted to scan the whole items and then provide the report in a file of CSV or TSV, you can do that. Also there are a couple of options. For example, if you want a clean execution in a simple way, in terminal you just need to type pa11y space URL. That's it, whatever the URL you wanted to scan, and then it just gives the report on the same place in terminal. Whereas if you wanted a help on the way how you wanted to store your outputs, so that would help by typing pa11y -h, which means Pali-h. So h means help. And then if you wanted to know which Pali version you are actually using, you can use Pali-V. So that would help to get the higher version of it. And then if you wanted to check environment details, means how that outputs go into particular environment, how that Pali runs in there, so you may try -n. That would help. And then if you actually wanted to check um, particular standard of a particular guidelines like WCAG or section 508, so that is where you need to specify by -s. So this is very important. Why? Because if you actually wanted a page to be scanned for any AA or AAA defects, or A defect, which is top serious, then definitely you can specify that in the standard, and then you can run it along with that. For example, if you wanted to run the script on a page for AA standard to see any AA defects occurred on the page, so you can run it by pali space hyphen s space wcag2aa space url. So that would get the details of WA defects, but this is by default. Even if you don't mention standard, just mention pali hyphen pali space url, and then you run the test. It just do the same way. By default it will give you the WA defects, whereas if you actually wanted to check A level defects, then you need to specify. In such a way it is pali space hyphen s space wcag to a space the URL what you wanted to enter there, and then press enter. It scans through the page for any top level accessibility vulnerability in terms of WCAG standards, whatever fits into A criteria, and then it gives you the report. Similarly, if you wanted to test something for section 508, this is for the US projects, so you can do that similarly by pali space hyphen s space section 508, in which s is caps, space the URL, and then it give you the report. Now the challenge, if you wanted a report in a particular format, you can get it always. So which format you prefer to get it is up to you entirely. So by default it will give in CLI format, but if you wanted in a particular format, then you need to specify hyphen r. So it is like pali space hyphen r space HTML space URL. That's it. So you will get a clean HTML report. So you can work on it, or if you want a JSON, you can specify in the same place of HTML. So any doubts, once you install, you go to README file of pali within node modules. You have the same descriptions. Basically I'm trying to explain whatever you see on the README, but this is my experience based on reporting. If you get a CSV file or HTML, it is more useful for you to go on to sit with the developers and then discuss, because straight you get a report, you get three types of report: error, warning, and notices. But believe me, 90 or 95% it may go wrong, because it just scans the whole page, and then you may not need the entire reporting. You just need to hand pick the section where you developed something, and then you need to fix them. So in order to do that, definitely you need to see something what is prominent for that particular section. So there is where you need to see which warning or which error is really relevant, rather than looking at some notices which are not relevant, or even some errors at times may not be a valid error in your test. That is something you will know only by sitting together as a developer, tester, and then any environment engineers, um, explaining about what is developed and what has gone wrong. So anything you remove from the report as a false positive, which means invalid, just keep it in a proper reporting structure, so that you will know when you read it through later point of time why we have not looked at particular error which is displayed by pali in your test. So similarly, if you wanted to go for any particular configuration of JSON, you can use hyphen config, or you can even wait for a time, because if in your environment, test environment, it takes some milliseconds to launch the page, it is making sense, because if you have security layers, and then you have to wait for at least 30 milliseconds or 30 seconds to get onto the page to display, then put a hyphen wait. So it is something like this. Put something like pali space so it is um, um, pali space hyphen w space 3000, for example, for 3 minutes, space URL, and then that's it. So the npm installation is done. So I'm gonna show you how it works. So the pali is installed. So whatever I discussed so far, we can see here. So That's great. Let's try this out. So let me run a simple test on github.com. So I'm gonna do just by typing in URL, that's it, and then I expected to see the report of Pally. Can we see that? So just let's have a look. So now Pally runs its first test for us. That's great. Let's wait for a couple of minutes to see how the reporting comes in, and then we can actually generate the report on a HTML. So here we go. So there are 9 errors on the page. So there are some color contrast issues. There are some labels. There are some conflicts on the buttons. So this is something as a very important report. So what I would do if I develop this page, or developer develop this, if I'm a tester, and then I go to sit together and then discuss, hey, I got 9 errors on my Pally report. So how do we go together and then review it, and then classify how many are required as a defect and then fix them. So now in order to go for a report, as we know, so let's do CSV report, maybe -r CSV, and then give a try. So there is one way -r, or there is another way we can easily put that into a reporter, like -reporter. I specify CSV, and then I give https github.com, and then I wanted this report going into um, accessibility report version 1 dot CSV. Great. So the report has been generated, and then I should see that the report is generated. Great. So I need to check that. I just open it and see if the same report what is generated on the terminal has come in the Excel. Let's have a look. Great. I got WCAG standard exception details as well. So this is what we need. So we need to go with this and then say what kind of errors has been reported part of this page, and then why. So that would help us. And then if I wanted to go for a particular standard, for example, I wanted to go for because since I mentioned basic report give only WA defects, and if I wanted to go for a top level defect, then I need to specify that very clearly, that what standard I wanted to validate. So let's have this run as another test. So what I wanted this time, I wanted a CSV, but at the same time I wanted to check section, maybe standard, and then WCAG maybe 2A space URL, and then it goes straight to the CSV file. So the CSV file what I wanted, I just wanted this for WCAG 2A, and then CSV. Let's get this generated. So the page is getting scanned for report which contains only top level defects on WCAG version 2 and then A set of defects. So let me see the report. So that has come through here, and then I just need to open it in the Explorer. Fantastic. So I got 5 errors related to top level, and then I need to review them. So let me have this tested similarly for AAA. So how does it looks like? And I don't need to test that for AA, since the first report whatever we got does the same job by default. So I just need to run this to get this report to see how that scan went in, and then any errors or warnings or notices on AAA standards. Similarly, I will do one for section 508. Why not? So it's a matter of few seconds. So work generating this report. So the test is completed. I should have that here, and then let's go test this on the Explorer. So let's check. There are couple of errors, I believe. Yes, because it is AAA, so we need to actually see what is worth checking. So this is required a proper review on them. So if you look at the couple of errors, some of them are generic on 4146, and then few of them are 2.3, and then few of them belongs to 3.1 and 1.4. So now I need to sit together with other team members and then scan through the reports one by one. So all we left is section 508. Let's have that checked. 508, and then that comes in. Space. So this would exactly give us the report what we wanted by validating section 508. But again, this is if the website needs to go in line with the US regulations, of course we need to get this tested. Why not? So the report is available here, then we can view it. All right, there are a couple of errors related to this. The heading orders are incorrect, and then content anchor is missing. So the details are here, and then I need to discuss on the header 3, 4 and 6 why they have not logically nested. So that's the report says. I need to actually see how it works when I review with the other team members. This is one of the sample tests what I performed using Pally. So this will help us to scan the page. So when it should go soon after the um, page has been ready. So ideally it should come to the acceptance criteria of the story. So the story comes to to-do list, and then you move it to kickoff. You discuss with the team, and then you put Pally test as part of your criteria in acceptance criteria. So basically, I would mention that WCAG standards should be verified by using Pally as a code scan, and then it gives the report such as this. Or if you wanted to log in and go to the particular page and do, I would choose X rather than Pally CI, because that goes along with BDD, so that you can script on particular line and then scan through along with your navigations from the BDD Selenium scripts. So that's later. So now if the page is ready for testing, and then you can scan through this. So thanks a lot. So next session we'll get on further on accessibility testing. Bye for now.